Okay, beginner planche exercises. This is a real common one I get asked. And I've done a few videos on it in the past, but I'm just going to whiz through the beginner things now. So the main movements you should be working on. And you could use this as like a checklist to see where you're at. If you can do each variation, just keep going until you hit a point where you can't hold with control or do the repetitions that you're aiming for. And then you know you need to work on that one or the one before it. And then you should know your steps to get through to maybe like a tuck planche. So if we call the beginner process from learning protraction all the way through to be able to hold a tuck planche with no assistance. So let's just start right at the beginning. So hands, make sure they're warmed up. So hands and wrists do lots of warm up. Externally rotate. So we want to have the hands pointing this way when we planche. I wouldn't recommend doing too much here. It's hard on the wrist, especially if you're doing lots of handstands like me. I wouldn't go all the way around to the side. You will see people do it, or even crazy all the way around here. It just, you lose, in my eyes, you lose the control of having some contact with fingers either side of your palms. So here. So first of all, just getting into that position, making sure you're comfortable around the front here. If you're not, lots of wrist warm up, and then we can go into protraction. So just making sure we can round the upper back, going down into retraction, protraction. Make sure you're comfortable there. So I'd recommend that you video yourself, take your top off so you can see what your scapula is doing, what your shoulder blades are doing. In that protracted position here, you shouldn't be able to see your shoulder blades. Next thing, we want to load that position. So I'm going to protract, I'm going to lean forward slightly. So now I've loaded because my shoulders are over the front of my hands, protracted. If that feels okay and I can keep holding that protraction, now I'm going to go up onto my toes. Same thing, I can turn the toes over. It's harder again, but I should still be able to hold that protracted position. So straight away, if you can't do that, that's what you need to work on. That's like the base of the planche position. So long holds there, up to 30 seconds, even up to 60 seconds in that protracted hold. Once we're comfortable there, we can get a little bit dynamic with it. So we can start to hold this position. And I'm going to start to walk my toes in to a tuck position and then back out again. So while I'm doing that, I'm trying to keep that protracted position the whole time. And again, video yourself from the side, see if you're collapsing or winging through the shoulder blades. If you are, make it easier. Don't do so many reps. Just be careful when you walk up in that the hips don't go too high. We're trying to keep them just a little bit higher than the shoulders. Another variation that's used quite often there is to use a slider. So a piece of cardboard works if you don't have a slider, but the goal now is to slide into that protracted position. So here, so I'm sliding in, holding protraction to tuck, knees come to elbows, and back again. So you can tell now by my voice that this gone up another notch. It's hard to talk while I'm doing that movement. So hold the protraction, shoulders over the front of the hands just a little bit, slide in, try and keep the shoulders and the hands in the same position as you slide the knees in towards the chest and back out again. Okay, then we could do a test. So you could do that out of the slide or out of that walk position. We just want to see whether we can lift the toes off the floor in that protraction. And we're actually then like exploring the tuck planche. So slide in, find that position, and see if you can lift the toes up. So if you can do that and you can hold for 10 seconds, then we can work that. That could be your exercise. That could be your tuck planche. You've got it. We just need to create volume and reps and sets of that. If you can't hold it, we can make that easier. So let's just see whether we can get a 10-second hold in that position. The other way of getting into it is without sliding. I could start in like a squat position, protraction up to that position. So if you can't hold that tuck variation without assistance, one way of helping us is to use the band. I can use the band in two ways. So the most common used way, and if you can go straight to it, then great, is to put it on the hips. So same thing in that squat position, push up, protract. There. Now, obviously with that one, I can increase the height of the ring, which makes the band stronger, or I could use a thicker band. So make that easier or harder depending on whether I move it up or use a thicker or thinner band. The other way I could make it slightly easier is if I, instead of holding like this where there's a gap, so there's a gap between my knees and my elbows, is I pinch my knees to my elbows there and create some friction, which makes that slightly easier to hold. If you still struggle with this one on the hips, we can do the same on the ankles, which is slightly easier. That variation, but the one around the hips is seen as the one to go to, and you can make it, bring this quite far down, or use a thin band and make it so it's not doing that much. So obviously the goal is to do it without, so keep testing it without the band. And then once you've got the tug planche, we can start to add it into other variations. So I can add it into the handstand. So from your handstand position, lowering down through the tuck and finishing that tug planche. So that takes us from the protracted position all the way up to a tuck planche. We can obviously go beyond and go into straddle planche, more advanced tuck positions and things. I cover that in my other videos. I'll stick a link up in the top somewhere here. Thumbs up and subscribe would be really appreciated. Any comments, questions, stick them in below. And sets and reps and things for this type of work, stick around the 10-second mark. If 10 seconds is easy and you can hold for longer, then go to the harder progressions. If you can't make 8 to 10 seconds, go to an easier progression. If you decrease the time on your holds, you need to increase your sets. So time under tension is the key. So good luck. Let me know how you go, and I'll speak to you next time. Thanks, guys.